When we practice dream work, we're actually getting to know our inner others. And I think this is one of the most important steps in practicing at belonging, because there's a wonderful symmetry that happens when you do this work internally. Then actually it translates into a kind of competency in the world. So we become increasingly interested in diversity in our world and appreciative of diversity all around us.
Welcome, friends, to this week's Timeless, a beautiful short piece where we revisit something beautiful from our archives. If you haven't yet joined us, we have The Rhythm, where we meet to meditate together twice a week, just for half an hour. You can drop in or join the membership. It would be wonderful to share this live space with you from wherever you are. You can find the link in the show notes. The meditations are embodied, they are energetic, they are visionary, and they connect you to your true self, your whole self, as well as to a beautiful community. The time has come for us to invite a new member to our wonderful team. We are looking for a new writer and visual storyteller. You bring both steadiness and creativity to our team, responsible for listening to the episodes and preparing them for the sound edit, and then crafting how they are shared with the world, from the titles to the words to the visuals. It's a key part to making this podcast, and you will join me as the host and producer, and Mary, our sound editor. We are looking for someone that is dedicated, that has vision, and that also is very reliable and able to really hold the team in our flow that works so beautifully as we pass each episode from different places in the world back and forth to each other, crafting with deep care, love, and creativity each of these episodes. If you are interested, please write to connect@allthatweare for the details. Our team is all female, although we're always open to what might be unfolding for the future for us. And you can be based anywhere in the world as it's remote work, but we do connect through the week all together. My guest today is Toko-pa Turner, and we are revisiting her powerful episode 158 on dreamwork, belonging, and exile, entitled The Power of Our Dreams. I highly recommend you listen to the whole conversation. Toko-pa Turner is a Canadian author and internationally celebrated dreamworker. Her first book, Belonging, Remembering Ourselves Home, has been translated into 10 languages and won several awards, including the 2018 Gold Nautilus Award and the 2018 Gold Reader's Favor Award. Her latest book, The Dreaming Way, Counting the Wisdom of Dreams, won the 2025 Gold Nautilus Award for its contribution to the field of personal growth. It was called Remarkable by mythologist Michael Meade and exquisitely written by Jungian analyst Anne Baring. She lives with her husband in a small village in the heart of the Ottawa Valley. In this Timeless, we explore how to work with dreams as a daily language. We hope that hearing just this small part will give you space to contemplate, integrate, and embody what is shared here, and will, of course, spike your curiosity to dive in deeper. Welcome to All That We Are, with me, your host, Amisha Tala Oak. On this show, we explore the weave between activism, the sacred, creativity, and regeneration, the spaces where our inner and outer worlds dance. From healing trauma to nature connection, to new technologies, to ancient wisdom, it's time for us to move beyond silos and into an integrated way of being. Every one of us has ideas and personal experiences to share that can lead us to a more beautiful future. Despite the challenges we face as a global community or the pressures we meet in our daily lives, when we stop and dare to listen, to ask ourselves the big questions and to share what we are already doing and envisioning, we create the futures of our wildest dreams, and we begin to embody all that we are becoming, and all that is possible.
What my greatest dream is for the future, it is so much about bringing dreaming, nocturnal dreaming, back to the people, pulling it out of those ivory towers and actually having it be normal conversations that we can have in our families and communities. And so that at a very young age, we learn that it is so incredibly valuable to turn towards our dreams and to see the way in which they are guiding us, because people who pay attention to their dreams are living in alignment with nature. The impact of that at the level of culture and even global culture, I think would be incredible. You know, we wouldn't have wars because we would be working out those inner conflicts within, or maybe we would have less wars. I mean, we're talking about wildest dreams here. So we would live in harmony with the ecosystem because we would be in harmony with our inner nature, and so on and so forth. So that's my dream, that we can bring dreaming back to the people and make it a part of life again.
My dreams have been so rich during this time. It's really what's kept me sane, to be having these incredible adventures and to be like getting to have these other experiences when I get to close my eyes at the end of the day. And if we are in a space where we see the value of our dreams, but maybe don't know what they mean, or, you know, what they're trying to show us, or how they're trying to heal us or guide us, how do you feel one starts to grapple with that?
It is a language like any other language, and it takes time to learn. Ultimately, the way that it is different is that what it takes is this tiny but crucial shift from thinking literally to thinking symbolically. And this is very hard for us to make because we'll dream about, say, our spouse, or we'll dream about our workplace, and we will see those images and think quite literally about the dream. But when we think symbolically, what we are trying to get after is that character or that place or that object's qualities. A very good starting place is to simply define the key characteristics of whatever that symbol is coming up in your dream. So, for instance, let's say you dream of somebody you know from 20 years ago, and you ask yourself, well, why am I dreaming about Dave from 20 years ago? I haven't even thought about him. Well, instead, you can ask yourself, well, what are the main characteristics that you associate with Dave? And maybe you'll say, oh, he was really creative and outspoken and fiercely himself. So now you have these descriptors, and then you can ask yourself, why are those characteristics showing up for me in this moment, in present time? And you may not have enough just looking at that one symbol. So you have to look at the other symbols in your dream to kind of piece them together to see if some sort of pattern or motif emerges from their constellation. So it does take a lot of work, not a lot of work, but it takes a bit of focus and attention. And as you get more skilled with it, you may not have to write it all down in your journal, which is to say the dream work process itself. Dreams should always be written down. They love to be written down. And that will help to capture the prima materia, the raw material of the dream itself. But then the exploration of the symbols will begin to come more naturally to you, and it can become a more fluid process. And that's the part of learning the language. You begin to develop a facility with looking at the symbolic qualities of a thing instead of just at its face value.
What do you feel is the kind of role in dreams in our kind of collective future in understanding the bigger picture of our species and our interspecies dynamics and maybe the prophetic nature of like what may be coming? Do you feel like we receive visions through our dreams?
Yeah, so let me approach the first part of the question first, because it's a really big and exciting question. And I love that. One of the great examples, I think, of how dreams work outside of just the personal and conscious is when you get together with a small or large group of dreamers in a circle. I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but I host these retreats. We would gather a group of dreamers together, say 30 people or so. We would spend several days together and we would talk about our dreams and learn about our dreams and do various sort of somatic animistic games with our environment to learn about the relationship between our dreaming and the earth's dreaming. And we'd wake up in the morning always in silence, and we would practice silence. And we'd come together, we'd write our dreams together in community, but in silence. And then after everybody's had some breakfast and woken up, we come together in a dream circle. When we begin to share our dreams, we see the most remarkable thing that many people in the circle will share images, will share symbols. We'll wake up one morning and at least 50% of the group or somewhere around there will have dreamed about cats or maybe a specific kind of cat, like a tiger. And you think, well, you could say that's a coincidence, but when this happens again and again, and then when you start to actually work on the symbolic dimension of the dream, you realize that the circle itself is working something out together. And this is the most amazing realization, because what it means is we are an ecosystem. And I don't mean this as a metaphor. I mean, we literally are a psychic ecosystem, right? So this puts the whole idea on its head that we should be taking action in the world first, when in fact, I think those things need to be reversed. I think the front lines of any kind of activism are actually on the interior. I don't mean this to say that we shouldn't take action, but I believe that action should be taken not from a place of urgency or desperation or fear of things going wrong, but actually should come out of one's own psychic prompting. When we do that, it shows us every single night where we need to be bravely working. And what happens then is those issues that you are sorting out internally, whether they are, say, conflicts with our own shadow, let's just put it that way, as a general sort of like umbrella way of looking at it. When we work out our shadow issues, then we no longer project them into the world, right? And this is, projecting our shadow is why we have racism. It's why we have war. It's why we have xenophobia. It's why we have class wars. And I mean, it's not the only reason, but it's a huge part of it. It's really the root of the thing. So when we're doing work to become conscious of our inner biases, then we no longer need to project them out into the world. I realize this is a very long-winded answer to your question, but you asked a very big question, which was, what is the relationship between our dreaming and the future of the planet, right? And so some of the biggest issues that we're facing right now, like, climate change and racism and poverty, are all, I feel, a result of people behaving out of ego, behaving out of greed, behaving out of fear of otherness, which are all issues that need to be resolved at the level of the self, or, as I was alluding to earlier, in smaller communities, in our villages, in our families, so that we can begin to tackle as smaller ecosystems these problems. And from that place of healing those shadow pieces internally, we then have a strong foundation to take actions and make differences in the world.
Do you feel like we are all given different pieces of the puzzle through our dreams? I'm really curious about that dynamic of why certain people have the dreams that they have and kind of how that fits together. If I imagine that we were living in cultures where that dream sharing would be so much a part of our way of life, and we would, come together, not in a retreat, just as a way of life every morning and share like what messages were you given and what did you see, and piece something together. I love those stories of how in indigenous cultures, the women would like dream with their heads together, especially during their moon time, and they would be able to tell the men where the buffalo were and where they needed to go and get the buffalo. And I'm really curious about how much of that is still here despite all of our busyness, distraction, and focus in other directions.
Just about every indigenous culture in the world that has managed to still exist and survive, and some that haven't, have dreaming at the center of culture. We're really, the dominant culture is the only culture that dismisses and devalues dreams. So you're right. It is a very, I would say, a natural way of being that we have very sadly lost. And I do believe that each of us has a different piece of the puzzle, In the Jungian way of viewing dreams and of viewing the soul, we come into this world with a particular nature that it is our task to fulfill in this lifetime. So there's this beautiful image of, I'm sure you've heard this, of the acorn, which the acorn contains the blueprint for the entire oak tree within it, that we are similar in that there is a specific unfolding for each of us, a purpose or a series of purposes that we're meant to fulfill. And when we listen to our dreams, it helps more than anything remove the hindrances to our sense of purpose. But that being said, I'm not sure that I believe in a single purpose. Our purpose can change over the course of a lifetime or even several times. And that shifting and changing is okay. Because I know sometimes folks can get really focused on what is my purpose. But I think purpose can be, something that you hold as a question every day. What is my purpose today? Purpose is a combination of, what you feel most passionately to speak about, to bring into the world, to do. And it's often not easy because it's often going against the grain of the dominant culture. We do each hold a different piece to that. We have been talking a lot about dream work, and I think that this is just such an important key because the practice of belonging starts with ourselves. So, you have a dream and you have this whole community of people that are inside of you. And some of them you're in profound conflict with, and others you think are really weird and you want to get away from, and others you love, and some you have not met. And this is just the people, there are all kinds of animals and places, and, so we have this great diversity of otherness within us. When we practice dream work, we're actually getting to know our inner others. And I think this is one of the most important steps in practicing at belonging, because there's a wonderful symmetry that happens when you do this work internally. Then actually it translates into a kind of competency in the world. So we become increasingly interested in diversity in our world and appreciative of diversity all around us. And I don't just mean human diversity, but I mean, the eco-diversity that's all around us, well, the other than human beings as well. So I think dream work is a huge part of practicing at belonging, not as a static place of attainment, but as continuum. And on the other side of that continuum is exile And actually, belonging and exile are both important and necessary parts of the process. There are times when we need these experiences of exile to turn away from a group of some kind in order to truly face what our values are. So, coming into relationship with our own deepest sense of integrity and knowing, so that we can bring what we learn from that initiatory experience into the world and contribute it. And that contribution that comes out of that exile, out of that experience of separating from the group in order to truly find the medicine of the purpose we talked about earlier, and then contributing it to the world, is essential in us feeling an actual sense of belonging, and actually translates to our relationships as well. Because how can we truly meet another for who they are unless we are more completely ourselves?
Thank you for listening. We hope that you have enjoyed this episode and it has sparked some inspiration and creativity in you. This is one of our timeless editions, a short and powerful piece of wisdom for you to contemplate, integrate, and embody. We have an archive of over 200 epics, long, deep conversations for you to explore, share, and enjoy. We keep this podcast advertising free, as we don't want to sell you things that you don't need. This is made possible by you supporting our work as a member of Presence Collective, a patron, or through joining our offerings. You can also support us by sharing this with those that you love. Can you send it to 10 people who you know will find it powerful? This podcast is made by an all-female global team. You can explore our world at allthatweare.org and find your ways to take part. All That We Are celebrates all that we are already and the untapped potential that lives inside us. We exist to offer a space of sanctuary in the ever-increasing chaos, a place where you can come and be in good company, a place where you can learn, unlearn, and connect to your own wisdom. And know that in each and every moment, all that we are is here.